So last night, my Uncle Greg and I, we went on town, and we wanted to look and feel our very best for Sunday morning. And so we entered the beer drinking contest, and we won first and second. We wanted to just prove that we were good All-American boys from Phoenix, Oregon. So then this morning, on the way to church, I was listening to Pete Seeger, and I've told y'all not ever tell my dad that I listen to Arlo and Woody Guthrie, but don't tell him I listen to Pete Seeger either, because that'd make him upset. Anyway, I was listening to Pete Seeger, and then I got to church, and there was a dog there at church, and I don't mean like a dog and cat kind of a dog. I mean, this was a real dog. And I was talking to this dog, and I remembered that some people have been asking me about bit seats on horses. So I thought I'd take a minute. The wind's blowing outside. It's not a good day to be doing much anything. So I thought I'd take a minute and talk about bit seats. So this is one of my brood mares here. And this skull here, this is a pretty good skull. I'm going to give it to a friend of mine he's a equine dentist. His name's Jeremiah Garrison. He's going to take it around and be one of the ones he shows people what he's doing with. But this is a really good skull, and so before I give it to him, I'm going to show everybody what I'm talking about these bit seats. And so this skull, it doesn't have very much horse on it, but it's still got a little horse on it and some leaves. This horse has never been floated, and you can see here where it's never been floated, and you can see where there's never been any bit seats in, and you can even see that there's a wolf tooth right here, and that would have been above the gum line. So nobody ever knew that this horse had a wolf tooth. So that's something your dentist can look for. Those wolf teeth still have a big effect and can still really cause a lot of problems, even if they're not, if they haven't emerged. So when we're talking about our bit seats, let me get her put back together here correctly. Yikes. When we're talking about these bit seats, I think it's really misunderstood. People don't really know what's going on with a bit seat. So I didn't go to school for this, but I followed Dean Kopnick around a lot when I was a kid, and then I was around a lot of other really good equine dentists that taught me a lot. And I kind of learned as I went here, and I read a lot of books about it too. But our bit seat is going to be right here. There's a sharp point right here, and so when I take that bit seat, I'm just going to kind of take that off right there, just round that off. And then the same on the bottom arcade, there's a sharp point right here. I'm just going to kind of round that off just a little bit. And the whole point in that, a lot of folks think that this bit seat has to do with so the bit doesn't hit their teeth and this and that, or a place for the bit to sit. That it doesn't have anything to do with that. It's really not a good name for what we're doing when we put a bit seat in. I can't think of a better thing to call it. But it really doesn't have to do with where the bit sits. What it has to do with is that horse's jaw is able to slip like this. And so with this horse, when I ask it to bridle up, when I'm riding it, there's got to be some slip there. And you see how there's not very much. Well, this horse's teeth had never been floated because everything's catching. That's not 100% the bit seat. It's catching a lot in here. There's a spider on there. It's catching a lot in other places too. But that bit seat, that little hook there, this horse is able to hook this top tooth over top of this bottom tooth when you're pulling on it, and then they can evade you that way. And so by rounding that off and then rounding it off here, we make it so where they can't lock those teeth like that and run through the bit. That's one part of it. Now here's the more important part of the bit seat. Because you can poke holes in that theory and say, well, you'd just be a better trainer. And I agree. But here's the important part of the bit seat. Horses, by design, by the way God made them, they usually eat the really short blades of grass. They go around and pick the tenderest, best pieces of grass. And so when we make hay, a lot of times, and I'm no farmer, so I could be a little off on my length here, but when we make hay, that grass is yay long or so when we harvest it and make hay out of it. And so that's way longer than the way the horse's head and mouth and tongue and teeth are designed to take that grass. When I take this little notch off right here and the same on the bottom part, I make it a lot easier for that horse to use its tongue to push those longer blades of grass, that dried grass that's hay, push it back here where they can chew it. And in that way, they're able to utilize their feed a lot better. They can get a lot more out of the nutrition. Otherwise, they're not getting it chewed up quite as good, and they're swallowing longer blades of grass that aren't all the way masticated. And their gut can't process it as good, and they can't get quite as much nutrition out of it. So the real reason I'm so big on bit seats is because it makes your feed a lot cheaper. If you just take that off and do the same on the bottom, right here at this high point, I just round that off, and I round that off. And that's the real thing behind bit seats is making your feed a lot cheaper. I think it helps in training, but it's more important for the fact that it makes your feed a lot cheaper. You can mess these bit seats up. The camera might have a little tough time seeing this, but there's a difference in color right here on that tooth. So that's where the gum line was. So from where my pin down here, that was the exposed tooth. And then this up here was under the gum line. And then as you can see, this was a young mare. You can see how much tooth there is up there that's available over the course of her life from this little ridge. I've seen it done, and if somebody does this, it's because they don't know what they're doing. But they can take that, make too big of a cut across there, and get up there in that gum line and get into the sensitive part of the tooth and cause some problems. When I do a bit seat, I do about that much right there, and I just round it off is all. And the same here, I just kind of round that off. But so any of you that are wondering about bit seats or wondering why to do it or if you should do it, yeah, if you've got a good equine dentist, then you should for sure have it done. It's going to make your feed a lot cheaper, and it will make your horse ride around a little bit better because they can slip their jaw around better.